are they now? And we know where this guy is. I think I know where this guy is. Andy Sumrall, who is the Associate Athletic Director at Oklahoma State, ticket operations, fan service, and just a good guy. But before we get into all the nuts and bolts, are you recouping with your foot injury? Are you making progress there, bud?
I am. It's coming along pretty well. Just got back in the office, so I guess everybody did pretty well without me. First game I've missed in Boone Pickens Stadium in 17 years. So
wow.
I guess nobody missed me. So
well, I bet they missed you. I bet they missed you. They just didn't want to step on your foot. That was the whole thing. They didn't want to hurt you anymore. But I'm glad you're making progress there, and hopefully you'll be back 100% here shortly. I talked to you before we went on the air. Hey, as we speak, the Cowboys are in, and the Cowgirls, as a matter of fact. The Cowboys are on the webcast, but first day of basketball practice officially around the country. First day you could practice the 2 hours or whatever. And there's a lot of questions about what will basketball attendance look like. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to get Mr. Sumrall on and see what he can enlighten us on, at least at this point.
Yeah, so we've had some preliminary talks, and tomorrow will be our first chance to really get down and look at a couple of models of what it's going to look like for us. But we are looking, we're definitely going to be doing distancing similar to how we did football. We're looking around 20-25% again, just like we did with football, and just kind of depending on seat selections and things like that, which should be hitting emails and mailboxes next week, just to kind of let our season ticket holders know where we're sitting, but and what the plan is. But we are planning for a complete reseat, just similar to how we did football, and looking around 25% in the stands.
Now, I don't have my calculator, which really puts me in a bad way, but 25% of 13.6 would be, what are we looking at here, 3?
We're looking roughly between 3,000 and 3,500.
Okay. And socially distanced, obviously. And my question to you was, and you know this because I was amazed that you've been here as long as you have, being an Oklahoma State guy, plus you've worked for 16, 17 years in the department. But the energy year in and year out in a basketball game comes from if your students show up. I mean, they bring you the energy right off the bat. And they're usually energized on the floor in the north end, south end, and those lower sections. But given this COVID thing, is that even possible?
We've had so many looks at and discussions about floor seating. Big 12 is coming out with direction on that as a conference for us. And that's what we're looking at tomorrow is what can we get on the floor? Can we put anybody on the floor? And how many can be on the floor? So still some questions to be answered before we really come out and say, yes, this is going to happen on the floor. But it's not going to look like anything you've ever seen before. And I said that about football, and I think everybody would agree. Nobody's seen football look like the way it is now, and basketball is going to be the same. It's not going to be the same basketball game days that you're used to.
As you said, the conference will, just like they did in football and have, I guess you have to come to a consensus from a conference viewpoint, and everybody puts their 2 cents in and figures out what's the best thing. But the intimacy of a basketball crowd, to me, makes it different than a lot of other sports. I'm wondering how in the world you can maintain that in today's COVID area.
Yeah, it's going to be, we're going to try to keep as many people as close to the floor as we can. Now, whether that's sitting as, in the 200 level, of course, we're going to have people in there in the 200 level. So we do have that going for us. Our stadium, or our arena, obviously is unique, where our 200 level is divided from our 100 level, and it has that overhang. It's been there. You obviously know that, and there's that overhang where you just look straight down and you're looking at the court. So, it's nice in that direction. And you always hear from visitors that talk about the fans just seem like they're right on top of you. So, luckily we still have that. You're still going to get some of that intimacy. It's not going to be like it normally is, but you are going to get a little bit of that with the fans in the 200 level, the front rows, things like that, being right there near the court. But like I said, we're still going to put. Hopefully, we're going to have somebody on the floor, fan-wise, whether it's students or donors or whatever it may be. But we'll figure that out and we'll get it going then.
Well, let me ask you this too. As the phone rings, somebody's probably want to ask a question about tickets, but I'm sure.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. It means you're working, man. That's what you're doing. And I don't want to complicate it, but I've been a season ticket holder in Section 208, and I've had 4 seats, and I'm just making stuff up here. Now, how does that affect me? You say reseating. Will I be in that spot? Will I have 4 tickets? Are we in a brand new world here, and I have to go back and reclaim some seats? What do I do?
Yeah, that's what we're looking at is basically reclaiming seats. The likelihood of you having your same seats is almost not going to happen. It just really depends on in basketball is a little bit different than how football was, as far as everybody's view and thought on what's a good seat is different when it comes to basketball. We've had that just in our office. We had about 4 different people in a meeting this afternoon, and all 4 of us thought corner section 200 level. 2 of us thought those were better seats than some on the sidelines, and others thought those were the worst seats in the 200 level. And so it just kind of depends on what your vantage point is and what you personally like. But really, the likelihood of having your exact same seat isn't very good. But I think you will have a chance to get something very comparable to what you have once we determine, opt out and opt in, and rates from our fans, and see who still wants to come based on any changes that we end up making, and kind of go from there. Like I said, we'll be getting those emails and letters out next week to all of our season ticket holders to let them know what's going on. But you can expect something very similar to the same policies that were put in place for football with the no refunds and things like that was put into place. So we're starting to narrow those down, and those should be hitting emails next week.
Will there be well, I know this answer, so I shouldn't even be asking the question. I'm sure there will be a deadline of sorts when you're given time to declare, if you will, whether you're coming, whether you're not coming, whether you want, what seat you want. But basketball season's not that far away. So what's the timeline in general for those who are wanting to come to basketball games and get tickets?
Yeah, we're looking at getting that email out with the survey for you to opt in and out next week. It's going to be a quick turnaround. We're looking at probably a week of needing to know if you are coming or if you're not. And then that first or second week of November is when we're planning on doing this full receipt, claim new seats, things like that. And, we are going full mobile just like we did with football. So we're going full mobile ticketing with cell phone or print at home, whatever it may be. And so that buys us a couple weeks where we don't have to get tickets mailed out and things like that. So we've got a ways to go, and you turn your head, and next thing you know, we're going to be playing basketball. And women's basketball is the exact same way. Cowgirls, we've got to do this exact same situation with Cowgirl fans that have season tickets, and try to figure all this out and get them going, just like we do with the Cowboys basketball fans. So we don't just have one sport like we did with football. We have 3 because we also have wrestling. So we've got to get all that ready to go and see where we can get everybody in the arena. And then once we get there, it's going to be a quick pick your seat, and okay, now you can get your tickets online or through your phone. So Yeah, we're really looking second week of November. Everybody should know where you're sitting and have your tickets on your phone or on your computer.
You know, you made a great point here in that we're talking women's hoops, we're talking wrestling. I guess the good news is if you have a 13,600 seat arena, you can probably social distance fairly well. I mean, I'm not a great mathematician, but you ought to be able to move people around where they're not sitting on top of one another if it's only 3,000 going to show up. And I don't know if that's the same percentage. You know, do you use the same percentage in each sport? I guess I should have asked you that before I got into this. But for women's hoops and wrestling, is it still going to be 25%, or what are you doing?
Yeah, what we're looking at is having the exact same seats available for all three sports.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right.
That way, you know, we can zip tie. What we're planning to do is zip ties seats that aren't available, so that nobody can sit in there and nobody can squat on any seats or take advantage of any open seats or anything like that. That shouldn't be sat in. So, you know, our facilities crew has begged us, please use the same seats for all three sports, so they're not changing it every night. So, you know, that's probably what we're really leaning toward, is having the exact same seats available for all three sports, whether they're used or not, and kind of go from there. That's some of the you know, some of the logistics that we're having to go through to figure out how exactly to get this done. But yeah, we're going to use the same layout for all three, so it should be 25%. If that's what it falls at, it'll be 25% for all three. Another
kind of fall sport question here, and I'm sure you probably have a better answer in a couple of weeks when your Big 12 comes to an agreement on this and that. But will there still be even though there's not a great amount, but will there still be an allotment of tickets for visiting teams this year, or will that go by the boards?
It will be. We actually all agreed on that earlier this week. Visiting teams, you know, generally we all get about 120 tickets apiece. This year we've knocked that down to 50. So we will all still have visiting team tickets in our arenas, but half of what we've always had in the past, and won't be behind the bench like we always have.
Right.
You know, it's going to be all up in the stands, and you know, you won't notice a big difference from what we've done in the past with visiting team. Just it'll be probably the 200 level versus the 100 level. So, but yeah, we did agree on that on Monday. All the Big 12 ticket managers and ADs agreed to 50 tickets.
Okay, and the last question for basketball here, and I want to make sure I got it right. There will be, in your mind, there will be some floor seating. You just haven't come up with the exact number and or location for those floor seats. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, we think there will be some. We just don't know where they'll be, whether they'll be on the sides or behind the goals. We do know there won't be any seating behind the benches.
Okay.
So on that, the west side of the arena will not have any seats on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
But the north, the east, and south, we think we have some opportunity to put some seats there. And once we get the layout tomorrow, we'll have a much better idea of what we think we can do.
All right, let's switch over to football in the time we have left. You've got a couple of games under your belt. And a couple more coming back-to-back, knocking on wood here, COVID notwithstanding. How has the football situation gone? And, you know, it never goes perfect, but give us kind of a good, a bad, and maybe the ugly look of the first two games as to how it went, at least according to plan.
Yeah, you know, luckily for me, I sat on the couch and got to watch it and didn't really have to hear anything. But no, my guys did really well, and from everything I understand, our fans are really doing what they need to do. You know, we need to continue to wear our masks. I think that's the kind of the common complaint we hear is so and so's not wearing their mask and things like that. You know, we'll have ushers go talk to them and have them put their mask on, but that's the number one complaint that we hear is they have to wear their mask, and they're right. You know, so we're really, really trying to enforce the mask, wearing masks and everything in the stands unless you're actively taking a drink or eating something. So, that's probably the ugly, and that's not that ugly, which, we're all pretty excited that that's the worst thing that's going on right now. So, good thing is, we've had about 85% of people use our mobile tickets, and that's unheard of all over the country. And no issues that we've really heard about. We've had a few that pulled it up on their phone before they left and couldn't get it back up, and we helped them through it. And after that, they told us, called back in after game 2 or talked to us after game 2 and said, "Hey, it worked the way you showed me, so we're all good now." And so that's the good part. And other than that, it's been pretty smooth sailing. I'm going to knock on some wood here, but after game 2, we all said we kind of felt like not necessarily geniuses, but felt like we were a little bit smarter than we thought we were. So
lest anybody say that I didn't hear them talk about masks when they're talking about basketball. It goes without saying that if you're coming to basketball games, you have to wear a mask. I mean,
absolutely.
We shouldn't have to say that, but since we didn't talk masks in basketball, I wanted to reemphasize that. But football, again, is there no school wants to be this way, but I know you saw where SMU got a little miffed at the student section and went down and warned them initially and then had them removed because they were not social distance, nor did they wear masks. I mean, nobody wants to be in a position like that, but it's even in your meetings, has that been kicked around? Or, I mean, that's the last resort, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really talked about, telling students that they can't come, but, trying to enforce those a little bit more student section. That's one of the toughest things that we have is our student section. We need them to be loud and rowdy and get our blood pumping on the field or on the court. And, it's helpful when the way they do it. Unfortunately, we need them to social distance and wear their masks and things like that. I will say one change that we're making from game 2 to game 3 next week is the front row behind the visiting team is going to be blocked off, where we're not going to allow any students on the front row just for that reason. We need that. We've had some discussions with the visiting teams and just our own discussions of, we need to let's create a little bit bigger barrier between the visiting team and our students on that front row. And so that's one change we are going to make. But other than that, it's just continued messaging to those folks. We plan to send text messages during the game, just a reminder, wear your mask, sit in the orange chair back so you're socially distant, things like that. There's, to us, there's so much you can do without doing what SMU did. And I'm not saying what they did was wrong. I'm not saying what they did was right, but it is something where at the end of the day, we're asking students to be adults and make their own decisions, and that's kind of what they're doing. They're making their own decision and kind of going with it that way. So we just hope that they're safe and careful with whatever they're doing.
There is always this question, and we're into football, but I guess it could carry over to other sports. But we're talking primarily football now. And I don't know where it gets started. Maybe it's wishful thinking, but there are people, hey, with each game, are we going to have more? Are we going to add more people? Will there be more tickets sold? What is the skinny on that?
We have no plans on adding people to it. We did the max amount of students we could do at a social 6-foot social distance. So we have no plans on adding for football. We're, like I said before, in basketball and those other sports where we are planning for 6-foot social distancing, haven't heard any different. So, unfortunately, whenever you distance and you make these pods or the seat blocks into groups of 2, 4, or 6, once they're in pods and they're sold, there's not a whole lot you can do without taking away the integrity of those pods. So there's not a whole lot of room once you do it and you do it right to add any seats without invading someone's space. And before the season started, we promised everybody we would keep social distance. So we don't want to go back on our word on that. So as of right now, there's no discussions on adding more tickets to allow more fans into the stadium.
And maybe this created a little bit of a, wrong direction by some people when there was some extra ticket, I say extra in quotes, made available for the second game, I think. But what were those tickets? Were those return tickets or those who didn't take you up on initially opting in? When did those tickets become available?
Those tickets are visiting team tickets.
Okay.
Weren't taken. So we in Big 12 we have a policy that each team can get up to 500 tickets for each game. So we hold 500 for every game. And with Game 2 with West Virginia, obviously the travel for them is very hard.
Right.
So they really didn't take very many tickets. So that allowed us to open some up and get more fans in the stadium. That those were sold at the time that we were doing seat moves and seat checks and all of that.
Right.
That's what those are. So we had some tickets available for Iowa State. Those sold out within a couple days of being available. Right now we only have 2 tickets left for Texas Tech and 2 left for Texas. And,
really? Wow.
I've talked to those ticket offices, and they're fairly certain they're not going to be returning anything. So if you're interested in coming to a game, I would get on Ticketmaster.com and try to buy whatever is on there right now, because the more and more we win, the more and more those prices are going to jump up by season ticket holders selling those tickets for games they can't come to.
And there's no question Iowa State will take its full allotment, because this is just from a standings game and just a national game. This is a celebrity game, so this is going to be a big game for both schools. Andy, I appreciate you taking all this time and answering. I just got in line. I gave all the dumb questions, so nobody else has to answer anymore. but I thought I'd bring them up and kind of clarify some things that, at least basketball wise, and I guess you carried over to wrestling as well, that people may have in the back of their minds.
Absolutely. Anytime you need anything, and fans need to hear it, just let me know, and I'm glad to come on and try to clear up anything. But stay with us. Probably about a week from now, you should have a lot more clarification on winter sport. And
we need to reemphasize that here in a week or so, you should be getting an email. Is that correct from the ticket office, and something
Correct.
to the effect that here's what's happening this year, so we need to get after it. Right? You don't have a short turnaround time. You know me. Exactly. When I got a question and I'm going to call you. I'm going to say, Andy, I can't figure it out, so you need to come on and answer the question.
That works anytime.
Hey, I appreciate you doing it, and get that foot taken care of. All right, you need to get back in there. We don't need you missing any more games, all right? You need to.
Agreed. I think my wife's ready for me to get back to games.
That's probably a no-brainer right there, I would think. Those of us who know you. Andy, thanks, bud. Yep. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, bye-bye. That's Andy Sumrall, and some good ticket information right there for those of you who are wondering about basketball.